everybody. Welcome to the stream. I'm not going to bother to do music at this point. Real quick, let's talk about our live stream schedule for today.
Today is going to be a conversation. It's kind of an open Q&A day. We're going to cover licensing first, and then we're going to go from there. So, Margaret, what we're going to do is, if you want to go to the Claris website for me, we're going to start the conversation. We're going to, so we'll cover the licensing components first. And then what we'll do is we'll talk about other things. So we had a gentleman yesterday, his name was Mark, who asked us a bunch of questions about the FileMaker platform. So let's go to licensing pricing, Margaret, if you want to hit the pricing button. So here's the deal with the Claris licensing. Claris is continuing to simplify the licensing. The biggest problem with their licensing is that back when they rolled out some of this licensing stuff that you see here in front of you, this is really confusing. So it's the licensing officially, if I articulate it to you, it's not that hard. There are a couple gaps. A couple of you need to bring up these questions and ask the questions because there's some like gaps where the licensing doesn't really cover well. So here's what you have to do with licensing. Licensing, you're going to add up the number of named users you need to have access FileMaker. So if you have 5 people on your team, 11 people on your team, 13 people on your team, the minimum number you can buy is 5. There was questions about that the other day where someone asked Ryan McCann, would they consider selling a license pack of less than 5? So you can buy one copy of Pro for yourself, okay? You can do that. So you can buy that. Probably the best way of buying that is just if you want to buy the training and everything else we have, you could buy it through us for a single license copy is the way to do it. If you did that, you would buy the complete bundle. Mark, you can bring that up real quick on your page. But really, it's at some point, Claris, the idea is that they're going to give away individual copies of FileMaker. What they need to do is charge for the connections on the server. So as you start to, if you're a person who uses FileMaker individually and you don't collaborate with anyone else, really it's going to be free. They haven't rolled that out. It's still on their backlog. They keep saying it's coming out. It's been on their list of things to do for like a decade with a D, decade, right? So back, Margaret, when you're 5 years old, they start talking about this. That was 2 decades ago. So it's still not done. And once again, McCann was very transparent about stuff. He said this about the 5-pack. He said, well, we don't want to quit selling the 5-pack if it's going to somehow cannibalize our sales. The same conversation, I can assure you, I've heard it at Claris. They don't want to do the freemium until they're going to assure it's not going to cannibalize their sales. Well, certainly it's going to cannibalize all the single license sales. But the idea is that you get a single, like some of you, like Mark was out there and asked questions, and he was playing with it individually, right? And then he decided to test it on FileMaker server. So if you look at our screen right here, the right option here on the bundle is the complete bundle, which includes the right one right there is the that's right, is the complete bundle, and that includes a copy of FileMaker. The other two don't include copies of FileMaker because there's special stuff in that one on the right. That being said, eventually we won't sell that bundle anymore because everyone will be able to get individual copies of FileMaker for free. But if you connect to a server, whoever pays for that server is going to have a paid slot. It's like a paid parking spot. Like if people go into the big cities and you park in a big city, New York, San Francisco, some places, people buy their own parking spots, and it has their little name on it, and no one else shall be there except homeless people or something, right? That people have to be removed from that spot. So anyway, so you have your own paid parking spot on this server, right? Makes sense? That's kind of where all this goes in the big scheme of things. That's where they're at actually today. However, if you want a single copy for yourself today, you're going to go to the Claris website. Mark, if you want to go back over there, you can scroll down to the bottom.
Cloud and Connect, which is unexpected.
Okay, there's single license right there.
Okay, that's hiding.
So if you don't want to buy it from me, get the training and all the extra great stuff for it, and then you can buy it from Claris for basically $600. Okay. All right. So yeah, we have a compelling price on ours. So anyway, so yeah, if you want to buy a 5-pack, what's the minimum price on a 5-pack? How do we? So this is why. Stop for a second. This is why this website is so bad. If you scroll to the top with this website, scroll to the top. They're trying to sell you on 2 different tiers of you probably don't want. Okay, for the most part, because they want you to buy their server. What they're showing you is the most expensive option they have first. which confuses everyone because none of the FileMaker professional developers will buy this as a general rule. There's issues with this, okay? So Claris is aware of the issues, and they know that the professional community generally won't use FileMaker Cloud, okay? FileMaker Cloud is where they take the server, they take an Amazon server, they take their server software, they Amazon hardware, they put together, they sell it to you, really at about $43 per user per month. That's pretty expensive. What we do is we use the on-prem, and so this website is horrifically confusing. I'm not going to actually try to explain it to you. I'm just going to tell you that, like anyone else, if you go to a car dealership, the first thing they're going to try to sell you is the $100,000 car, and then you'll slowly work them down to the fact that you're looking for a $38,000 car. And salespeople being salespeople, they're not really thrilled with that. They'd rather say the $100,000 car. So scroll down, Margaret, down to where it says on-prem. So when you come to this website, it should go to the on-premise section first. Is the default thing. So just click open a new window, on-prem. This is where it should go. And this is $16.50 a month. So the minimum buy on this, go ahead and hit buy it, Margaret. And what it's going to do is going to say, well, how many people in your team need this? And notice it starts at 5. It doesn't go below 5. That's that question about 5. So your minimum cost to Claris for 12 months is going to be $990, about $1,000. Okay. And then if you want a server that goes with that, then that's going to be another 40, 50 bucks a month, depending upon what kind of server you have. If you already have a piece of hardware,
Wait,
you have
does this
Jacobs
not
that went up on
include the
Amazon.
server? This looks like it includes.
Okay, it's all, stop. This is, everyone been to a Chinese buffet one time? Too much Chinese buffet, right? So if you go to a Chinese buffet, it's all you can eat. So this is 5 people at the Chinese buffet or at the FileMaker buffet. They get to eat all the FileMaker products they want, 5. It includes all the software.
Okay.
For 5 people.
Yeah. Now, this is going to be a really dumb question.
Margaret, if you're confused, you're the same as everyone else. Ask the question.
Does server take a seat?
No.
Okay.
Server is a server.
Okay. Because
so server is software. It's an installer. Like when you double click on a setup.exe on Windows or a DMG on a Mac, double click, there's an installation. Okay. There's really an installation on Pro. You don't really see the installation on Go.
There's also one buried detail on this screen that directly answers the kind of question maybe that you could be asking, which is on the bottom right of this page. Bottom left. I should get my directions correct. There is on-premise server up to 3 servers to host your custom apps, which is probably the correct way to answer your does FileMaker server consume a seat question, which is that you can have 3 servers.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really dumb that they're doing this. It's supposed to be unlimited. It really is unlimited.
So in this case, it's 3 servers and 5 seats is what's happening.
You have all the servers you need. What is the way I try to explain to people.
Yeah.
And the 5 seats are counting for Pro, WebDirect, and Go.
It's 5 people, and they could use as much of that as they want.
Yes.
So it causes Claris a little stress because when you buy this and set this all up, it reports home to Claris and it tells them how much you use. Like, for example, there's one of you here, probably not on the live stream, but one of you here bought a basic 5-pack from us and you have deployed it to 187 people, and Claris knows who you are and they are coming for you, by the way. No, I'm being serious, right?
Factually correct.
That's actually factually correct. They're coming, your is grass and they're coming for you, okay? If you buy a 5-pack and you have 7 or 8 people on it, you should get legal, but they probably won't parachute out of the sky with attorneys and guns. The person with 187 copies of it, your mileage may vary because Apple corporate has unlimited attorneys on hot standby. We're dealing with Apple here. This isn't Claris, okay? At the end of the day, this is a weird department at Apple. It really is. It's an Apple building. They call themselves Claris when they want to be independent, but they're really Apple. They have every one of them has Apple badges. It doesn't say Claris, it says Apple. So to be clear, you're toying with Apple. So understand, just keep that in mind. So if you want to steal a little bit, You want to steal more than a little bit, you're going to. So I personally have about 12 computers that I use. I am one license. I pay for myself $16.50 a month, about probably. Okay. I have 12 computers spread around, and they're like, Richard, you actually have that many computers? I'm the CEO, and I put video production training together, and I work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. I have 3 in each office that I have, 3 or 4 plus a laptop. So they're like, well, because we see all 12 computers. And then they look at them and they know there's never more than about 2 or 3 of them at use at any time. Right? That's a little thing. So it's like I don't have 12 computers and I wink to my staff, wink, wink, you can come sit at my computers. It doesn't work that way. I mean, you could try that, but then they would see all 12 are busy doing different things. Plus, yeah, so it just, the deal is to
aware that Richard hasn't spawned 12 hands simultaneously.
I am an outlier. Most people have, most even people at Claris have maybe, if they're really important, 2 computers. All of my staff that do development, I tell them they should have 3. They should have a Mac, a Windows machine, and they should have an iPad or iPhone or something so they can test all 3. So if you log into all 3 at the same time, you're using 3 slots on the FileMaker server, 3 slots, but you bought 5 users. So Claris really can't limit you to 5. They have to kind of watch and see how many that you do, right?
I'm gonna have some questions.
Keep asking questions because this is just
Jacob
such a.
is answering them in text, but I will also answer them or have you answer them live.
Yeah, please do that because I can't see
To be
text.
clear on the multiple servers, I have a 5-pack. I could install 2 servers, like 1 for production and 1 for testing, as long
Technically, it says 3 here. It has 3 here.
Yeah.
On this list, but yes, that is absolutely all true.
So someone was bringing up AWS because this is just paying for the software, not for the actual server. Would you call it hardware if it's virtual?
Yeah, so if you look at the top of the screen, don't click anything. It says cloud for Teams and on-premise for Teams. Claris named it this, and in the video that they haven't approved, by the way, I gave them a video and they were going to put it on their website. I point out the fact that they try to sell on-premise software to convince you that if your server's not on-premise, then you should use this other thing over here, which is a misrepresentation of the facts. The on-premise server is FileMaker server. It installs on Mac, Windows, or Linux. If I tell you I have a software that goes on Mac, Windows, or Linux, did I say anything that where it can't be installed? I gave you the hardware, the operating systems, probably some hardware dependencies, Mac, Windows, Linux, latest releases. Okay, where can you install that? On Mars, if you want. If you have a machine on, Elon Musk goes to Mars with a Linux computer, he can hire Jacob. Jacob go ding and install FileMaker server off the planet on Mars. So on-premise is not a great phrase. What you do is you buy this right here, and then you have to have someone help you set up the server. Now, if you have you don't want to pay Jacob a couple to 3 hours, whatever, to help you set up the server. You want to set it up yourself. Or you have IT professionals; they can do it. But if you're or if you really hate Jacob because you hate orange and you see orange come, you're like, screw that orange stuff, then you can buy over here, Margaret, click on it, Cloud for Teams. Click on that. And so this is the same 5-pack, but it comes with Claris setting up an AWS server for you. It has pretty substantial limitations on what it can do. It can't run monkey bread plugins on the server is a big one. It's really hard to get the data API stuff to interact with it with a web page. So for example, Margaret, press the button on our next upcoming live stream schedule. And there'll be this delay oh, there it goes. Okay, so those blue line vertical slices across the bottom, there's 6 records there. That is live data coming out of a FileMaker database. That FileMaker database is running on FileMaker server, a server that Jacob Taylor set up on Amazon. It's what Claris would call on-premise server, except we on-premed it into an Amazon data center. Okay, so the FileMaker cloud software, because it's running with Apple and Apple's responsible for it because they set up the server, they has even higher security restrictions, and getting this to work has been a major pain to work on that. In fact, we can't generally get it to work. There was a blog by Soliant saying, oh, we could get it to work. We never could get it to work. So if you need Pro access, Go access, WebDirect access, and you don't have any help at all and you hate Orange, then buy FileMaker Cloud, Claris Cloud, buy that one right here, and you're going to pay $21 a month for that, as opposed, so
At the low end.
at the low end, it gets real expensive on the high end.
Yeah, I
And
put the comment I put in chat is because people were having trying to do price comparisons between a FileMaker server on-prem, just kind of baseline, and these entry-level Claris Cloud, FileMaker Cloud, whatever you want to call it, systems.
I think it's a wash at like 5, but when you get above
it's only,
10,
and that's why I said it's only competitive at the bottom end, and it's also only competitive if you or your client fits on the Essentials plan. And the Essentials plan is actually even more constrained. You get 3 databases, period.
I'll go down to the Essentials plan, yeah.
Yeah, and at the top end, 20 gigabytes of storage, period. That's it. So
it's really limited, yeah. So
so if all you're actually doing is a baby little FMSP that's doing basic CRM stuff, okay. But as soon as you try and outgrow that, you're going to have a problem and run into a limitation.
More databases, more files, Monkey Bread plugin on the server. Because remember, the Monkey Bread plugin you install on the client, Mac or Windows. Well, you can't install it on Go or WebDirect directly, so you have to put it on the server for Go or WebDirect. But it won't go on the server here because it's an Apple server, and Apple doesn't want anyone else's plugins. They don't want Christian Schmidt's on their server because they only trust super regulatory trust, right? It's kind of a deal where Claris, because there's benefits of working with Apple. And because they're really big on security, like some of the security fixes that have come into the FileMaker platform, we'll just say loosely, have been driven by Apple corporate finding things and discovering things and saying you really need to fix this stuff, and they make Claris do that. I think that's great. But the downside is that they trust absolutely no one. Give me all your money. That's Apple's motto. We're going to spend 10 cents. Give us $100 for the 10 cents that we spend on you, and we're going to protect you with good security. So give us all your money and we'll protect you. That's actually their motto. That's the 2 things they're really great
at. Question from David Angel. Plus or minus, how much is it to set up a server with maintenance?
If Jacob does it on Amazon, I don't know, what do you do, 2 or 3 hours, Jacob?
That is its own entire conversation. 2 hours minimum for me to set a server up. There aren't any that are less than that currently. And then you need to pick how much time I'm doing that will be spent on maintenance. To answer that question for yourself. We have clients that want monthly updates, quarterly, 6 monthly, and yearly. It's an hour each time.
Or we have customers, because we had a customer that kind of got into this the other day. They were like, okay, I'll just go with this, Jacob, and you'll understand what I'm saying. We've had customers who say we want 24/7 support. Okay.
Oh yeah, we had one of those.
Yeah, and we don't do 24/7 support because I have to hire another 4 Jacobs, and customers are very big. Even some of the aviation customers, they're really big on making big demands, but they don't want to pay. And so the problem is you can't make demands and not pay. And so that's why we end up with 8 to 5 support Monday through Friday. Okay. And so if you want 24/7 support, then you need to have your own IT guys that are on standby, guys or gals, doesn't matter. They have to be available. They take care of stuff. Or you have to have a hosting company that they're going to invest and do that. The problem is the hosting companies are not in any way perfect, right? So we've had hosting companies who had data, files on their servers, and I could name the individual, and I don't want to embarrass the person because he's still in the FileMaker community, which is shocking. He doesn't like me very much. He had 5 or 6 or 8, 10, 12 servers. He didn't pay the bill to the parent data center. They seized the computers. All the customers lost their databases. and so you have to have some trust in the company that's doing the hosting for you, right? So when we set up a server, it's not a Richard Carl consulting server. Jacob's helping you set up your account. It's your server on your credit card, which also means if you have the account with Amazon and you go to Amazon and say, I don't want to pay Amazon anymore. And they're going to say, you're sure? And you'll say, yes. And you say, are you double sure? And are you triple super dog sure? And you say, yes, yes, yes. They're going to take your account and delete it. We had a customer who did this and they went, where's our database? And I'm like, I don't know. And they said, well, we told Amazon to shut everything down and get rid of stuff. Okay, great. They go, where's your database? I said, talk to Amazon. It's not our account. You're the one running the account. Wait, we killed the account they didn't want to pay, and we warned them, and they did it anyway. And so they lost their database. I don't know if they're even in business anymore. We had a legal agreement, right, that explains that they're responsible. So if you go to someone and say, take my credit card, never charge me again, then they're going to shut your stuff down.
Yeah, that was like a legendary whoopsie on the part of that client.
We've had that happen twice now, right? I think twice. Yeah.
They had apparently, at least the way they tell it, they had multiple Amazon accounts. And short version, they wanted to do a little spring cleaning and deleted the ones they thought weren't relevant, basically. And Amazon said, sure, love that, and cleaned everything up for them as you'd expect. Sent them their last bill, they paid it, no worries, and then they come in and everything gets fully cleared out and shut down, and they go, well, where's the server? And we're like, well, it's in your account. Well, where's the backups? Is there like an offsite or something that you guys were keeping? And I'm like, in the Amazon account you just deleted. Yeah. So don't find yourself in that position. That's all I can say.
If you're gonna shut down an Amazon account, make sure that you have no dependencies upon their services. Very important. So now the two kinds of license, there's two other variants on the license we'll talk about. So you have so first we're going to choose on-premise because we want to use monkey bread. We don't want to have limitations on our tech. So then you can buy it on an annual. So this should say the word on the where it says annual there in the little box. Let me see if I have my dry tool. Do I have my dry tool? Right here. That should say annual subscription is what that should say. It doesn't really say that, but that's what it should say. To the right is perpetual, which is really dumb, which means you buy it once and then you never buy it again because you own it forever. The problem is that to keep up to date, there's an extra bill that's on here, which is maintenance, right? And it talks about maintenance and updates and things like that. And when you buy a perpetual, you get 1 year of maintenance. So with annual, you pay less, like 1/3, but you have to pay the same bill every year. Fine. With perpetual, you're going to pay it once, but then you pay, this is 1/3 of the full price of this is 1/3 over here. And then you buy it fully, and then you pay, it's what, 20% or something like that, Jacob? I think it was 20% or something. I'm going to put a 0 here and then a little percent there. So instead of 30%.
Subsequent year maintenance plans.
Maintenance, yeah.
I apologize. I don't know the number.
So the perpetual will save you money I don't worry about that, Margaret, contract length. That's just if you have more money now and you want to lock it up. But this is cheaper immediately. This becomes more expensive after 5 or 6 or 7 years, some distant time in the future. And the other rub with this is that you run into people who, some of you are on this live stream and I'm talking to you. You're like, oh, I'm on FileMaker 16. It works great for me. And then we had this the other day happen, yesterday actually. Hi, we were using FileMaker and I've been doing a FileMaker for a long time and I'm a professional developer. Great, cool. Glad that we can help you. What's your question? This doesn't work anymore, is what they said. And they said, well, we ran updates on all our Macs to update them to Sonoma or something. And they're on FileMaker, pick the version a decade backwards in time, okay? I know this is for some of you a new thought, but if you update hardware, you need new software, operating system software. If you have new operating system software, then all the apps that are dependent upon that, all the apps that run on top of the operating system probably should be updated. Make sense? And so they don't, and then it doesn't work. So we have a number of people who have been on FileMaker 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, whatever. They update to the latest Mac operating system, the latest version of Windows, and broke. Like I have FileMaker 10 on not this computer, but one at the office, and I can get it to run for about 8 seconds. That's it. And then it crashes. Just long enough to open it up, get a screenshot, and then dead as well, it's bad programming. No, you can't have operating systems. You can't have software written in different decades interact with each other reliably. Make sense? Yeah. So I'm going to get so if you ever want to buy a new copy of FileMaker, then you buy a computer and you better go to the store and buy a couple more of the same model from the same year. So when it dies, you can slide in another Mac Pro from 2008 or whatever it is. No, I have a game. Listen, I have a game I love to play called Command and Conquer Generals. It only works on hardware through Mac Pros through 2008. I have a supply of 3 or 4 Mac Pros in my office, and when one finally dies, a power supply dies, I throw it in the trash, recycle, and I get a new Mac Pro out from 2008, and I put my game on, and I keep playing. You're gonna have to do that with FileMaker if you're going to play that game where you don't want to invest in anything. Keep in mind,
you'll run out of a computer.
Keep in mind that as a general rule, that there's a thing called technical debt. Technical debt is like debt on your credit card, but you owe it to your computer or anything related to the computer. And so if you spend $5,000 on that you're going to hire Jacob to help you build database or Margaret to help you build database, and you spend $5,000 every year thereafter, you should probably figure that you're going to spend about 10% on little maintenance things just to keep it up to date. And so every year you're going to spend $500. Oh, I'm not going to spend that. It should work forever. Okay, fine. So you don't spend it, but that money you still owe. I don't know. Okay. Then don't spend it. Just watch what happens. So then a year goes by, another year goes by. We had a call the other day from someone who hadn't invested in 30 years ago. Well, what's 10 times? Yeah. So the FileMaker solution was a throw away. We could export the data out of it. It was in FileMaker 5. It could not be upgraded. I wasn't going to upgrade it. Everyone who could have upgraded it is dead, or they're in the old folks' home and they have dementia. Okay. I'm one of the younger people. Margaret and Jacob are outliers in the world of FileMaker, right? So if you can get someone out of the old folks' home in a walker to help migrate your file from FileMaker 4 or 5, that's not fair. Okay. But remember the 10% you weren't spending? You didn't spend it. After 10 years, your solution might or might not be a throwaway. Start from scratch. Oh, I'm not going to start from scratch. I'm going to use the old solution. Then you have to have old computers, but I want to use a new web browser. We have this fundamental problem. Mr. Taylor, questions that people are asking?
No, I'm just going back and forth with David Angel on server pricing stuff.
Okay.
Mostly trying to determine what a good server price is. So
yeah, basically,
I can
just run my mouth on Windows pricing, but I don't know Linux that well because we haven't deployed very many of them.
What's
you
a
do a
T3
T3
large? T3 large. What is that per month?
Windows, those are $90 a month basically to start. So.
Okay, but if you had Linux, because you could do Linux, you'd be
maybe
less.
60. Yeah.
Okay, it's considerably less. It's like
best case 60.
Okay, so that's a T2 instance. The current ones now are T3, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's actually T4s. That's what BVA is running on, which is what I put in here. Yeah, you can't. What are you trying to do?
I was trying to pull up a pricing list.
Yeah, click the pricing button.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
That's not going to give you what you want, but I'm just
leading me around.
Oh, by the way, anyone who says a free tier, that's not for you. That's not for you. That's not for you.
Honestly, one of my primary jobs is translating Amazon's website into a number people can understand because they actually have a very complete pricing tool. Like you can go in there and be like, here's all of my little infrastructure items. Like you put thousands of services, you can plug them all in and get it's probably not a firm number, but a real ballpark on what something's going to cost. It will take you 6 hours to fill that form out. It's terrible. I have a spreadsheet.
Yeah, it's not good.
It should be a FileMaker app. Honestly,
we've done it before.
Database, right?
Shoot, Mike Wallace built an app that would read that stuff. It took an hour to get the data out of Amazon to do that.
Yep.
And so because they charge by the millisecond or something like that, whatever, and how much data comes into the network, how it goes out. The short version is that a T3. So T is a burst kind of server. So it's a T3 large is how much? Can you just bring that one up so we can see the specs on that? It's like what we basically recommend to people.
Where would I I tried to?
I keep thinking you're Jacob, Margaret.
No, I'm not
driving
Jacob.
The
you know what? Jacob, are you prepared to do a share maybe, or am I just going to wander around?
I can do it. I'm not.
Or just tell her where to go. Just tell her where Margaret is.
There's she's not going to go anywhere that I can send you. She's going to go to instances.vantage.sh and use a third-party pricing tool because that is 10 times better than anything that you're going to find on Amazon's website.
Hey,
Give me a minute and I will get you a pre-canned link.
Oh, she's here.
Clear all
She's
the
here.
filters.
Okay.
Yes, I'm gonna give you a T3 dot. Anyway, you found it. Put T3
filter,
into the
yeah.
box. Yeah,
T3.
T3 dot. So that gives all the pricing. Make your window bigger. Second thing, drop the
Large.
hourly in the top left down to monthly so people get real pricing they can understand.
Or yearly, right?
monthly.
Up,
Yeah,
Morgan,
a
up.
lot of people want their
Right there.
I did. I clicked
Oh,
that.
it's updating. There we go.
Mhm. It's already live. Yeah, it does it real time. So if you then scroll very gently to the right, mostly due to window sizing, you have the Windows on-demand cost and the Windows reserved cost, and then on the left side, the API name. So the details that you're looking for are instance memory, vCPUs, which are two left columns, and then on the right, the far right two columns, which are Windows on-demand cost and Windows reserved cost. That is not the complete cost for the server. Also, I know I'm like hair in the corner. You're welcome, everyone.
Yeah, sorry. No, I had to make you.
So yeah, so minimum. So now it's fine because we have to see all the stuff. So minimum spec for a FileMaker server is a T3 large. If you're on Linux, you can probably get away with less than that, but don't like use that as a real, just friendly advice. Don't use a medium for like a real business server. Doesn't have enough horsepower and stuff.
So T3 large has 8 gigs of RAM, right?
T3 large.
Two CPUs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not even that great, right?
Nope. So those are they're fine. That is I learned recently which CPUs they're using. That is approximately 2016 era hardware. So the funny joke is actually that before we upgraded for DBW4, our main server in January, it was a T3X large, which you can see the approximate price of right there.
16 RAM, 4 processors.
Yeah, 16 gigs, four CPU cores. That is my gaming computer. My gaming computer is an Intel 6600K with 16 gigs of RAM because I have an old one because I only play old games. And those are similar. It's similar hardware. They are the same. They're Xeons. It's server hardware, not desktop gaming or whatever like me, but they're not super dissimilar hardware wise. And I was like, oh, we should upgrade. So we did. So you have. And you only have one further setting there. So you can go from large to X large to 2X large. It ends at 2X large because that is the top of the T series. They don't go bigger than that, which is 8 core, 32 gig of RAM.
So real quick on if we go back and focus on the T3 large, we go all the way across. So the Windows reserve cost, is that the one we would do? We would reserve Windows or reserve Linux, right?
Yep.
So the window. So is this if we buy it for a year?
Yes. And currently it's 1 year, no upfront. Margaret can drop down in the top left, different options. It will give you you're looking for reserved. Yep. Yeah. So those are all the different options for you. Mostly it's either going to be 1 year. It'll be one of the 1 year, no upfront, partial upfront, full upfront. Those are what they sound like.
So if you give them more money on the front end, then they're going to lower your price. Hit that one, Margaret. Just hit that.
Yeah.
So you pay the whole thing up front. It's a
minor additional discount. I don't even
tell $3. $3 a month.
I don't even tell people about it because unless you're buying servers bulk, it doesn't matter.
No, that's pretty. Now, if you buy 3 years, there was a pretty good bump on that. Mark, go up there and check the 3-year one.
Yeah, the multi-year discounts are substantial.
Yeah, let me hit that one. Oh, okay. So it goes from 58 to 42.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So 58, 42. That's
that's full up front too. So.
Oh, was that full up front? No up front. 46. So the comparable would be what, 58 to 46. So that's about a 20. Am I doing that right? 20%?
Yeah.
So if you commit to 3 years with Amazon, it's about a 20% discount on that. Okay.
Yep. And that's additional, I think.
So yeah.
Yeah.
And then if it's Linux though, if you slide across the Linux, check it out because you're not paying the Windows price on that.
Yep.
That spot pricing, you want the reserved one to the left, Margaret. 26. So it goes down by about half when you go to Linux. You're about half cheaper.
Yeah, so it gets cheaper as you go up too. Windows pricing is based on the number of CPU cores and sockets and stuff. There's some, if you get really into it, you can do like how many remote desktop seats do you have and stuff like that. And if you're dealing with on-site Windows servers, you will have those conversations. But in Amazon, we have one seat, and they don't. You can bring that stuff in, but they don't, like, that's not what the hourly cost covers. And so we just pay the per core count, and it accelerates rapidly.
So let me go back for more beginner-ish type people. So when you buy a machine, a Windows machine, or let's just say a non-Mac, buy a non-Mac, okay? You're going to put an operating system on it. You're going to go and buy. So you buy the hardware shows up. Let's assume it doesn't have any operating system on it. Then you have to buy the operating system. Okay. Windows is not cheap nor free. Linux is essentially either free or a mild amount of money if you have some sort of subscription to it, right? Jacob, if I say something wrong, feel free to correct me.
No, that's correct. Most of the Linuxes are free. There are paid Linuxes.
Okay.
If you're on Red Hat or somebody.
But the point is that Amazon, when you're buying this from Amazon, they take care of all of it for you. So when it says Windows here, it's not the price for the hardware, then you have to buy Windows. They already have a bulk deal with Microsoft. So they're going to collect the extra money in here. We go from 26 to 46. That extra $20, they're going to peel off and send it to Microsoft for you. You never have to deal with it. That's great. But that's where that money went. It went to Seattle, Washington. Okay, that's where that money went. Okay. So the Linux, if you can deal with command line and you don't want a window interface, like Nick, talk to Nick. He's a Mac guy. He can use Windows. He cannot use Linux. Okay. And he doesn't want to learn. So his minimum server is whatever it is on a Windows side. So he has to pay that premium. Just is. Okay. Makes sense. So this is one of the things people don't understand, that they're putting the operating, all you have to do is pay them. They take care of everything else for you. And when you buy it, then you'll get a login. And that brings up a window like a VNC, virtual remote control window, like you see me do the servers. It'll be a Windows interface, or it'll be a command line, or whatever it'll be. So you have access to your server. That's an important one.
Do AWS and Claris use the same web/pricing? Consulting.
Claris buys, so here's the backstory. The answer is no. The backstory is that Apple corporate has a deal where they have their own data centers, and they cross-pollinate with Amazon on data center and backbone and infrastructure and stuff. And so when Claris went to talk to Amazon, Apple VPs helped facilitate that conversation so that Claris could get a good deal. That being said, Claris is what I believe using T3s or T whatever's, these burst CPUs here. But they typically buy on the small side. I'm always a little concerned that you're getting a little under provisioned on the server. But they take it, they mark it up, and then they sell it to you. Right. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everyone's complained about Claris Cloud performance for like the entire time. Yeah, the entire time after it was FileMaker Cloud 1, where you hosted it in your own account. And then if it was, with that one, if it was slow, it was because you had a tiny server or whatever. But it doesn't seem justified for the performance that they get, because it should be a T2 or T3 large. Hope it's a T3 large, to be honest. If it's a T2, they have problems, but those are slow. But people seem to see it's like a 30+% slowdown, and that just doesn't. I don't know.
We don't have the inside sausage making. And to be honest, I don't like trashing Claris. Claris that works hard, does stuff, but every once in a while, like the website, not good. And then the cloud thing, if you have basic needs and use their software as a service, you don't have any IT people, you hate Jacob and Orange, pick the reason, then you can pay them and they will take care of it for you. But if you need anything better, like the historic ransomware stuff or whatever like that, I'm sure Apple has some sort of, active provisioning for fending off hackers and stuff. But but the one of the things that, like Jacob does, he does the what's the terminology for that? What they call that? It's a non-temporal, I don't know what do you call it. Backups, they're locked up for a month or something, right? That way.
Immutable. That's
immutable
the word you're
backup.
Thinking of as immutable. Yeah, unchangeable, unable to be changed.
So when we set up a server. We set them typically for, unless the customer says something else. I always have ours set at 30 days. So if someone tries to hijack RCC, they whenever the hackers come in, they try to encrypt your backups first. And then they take out your main server. They don't take out the main server. They don't bother if they can't get to your backups, because you know you're just going to format the machine. You're not going to pay them the $100,000. You're going to format the machine, right? And restore from a backup. So our backups are locked up for 30 days, right? So that way they can't. By the time, like if they take out the server, we would say like a long weekend, like Thanksgiving. So we're gone 5 days. We come back on day 6. We have backups that they couldn't get to. We just restore from that. Of course, they have to figure out how they got in and all that, but yeah. So.
We have a question. Why no Mac servers?
That's an Apple licensing issue about virtualization on their operating system. Mm-hmm. There are some Mac servers at Amazon, but they're actual Macs. Like they bought a box, like a truckload of Mac Studios or Minis, and they put them in there, and people pay through the nose for that. Absolutely, you end up buying the Mac after 6 months. You would have been better off just to buy your own, but it's on Amazon. But Apple doesn't allow them to virtualize that, so put it on a different kind of computer.
They're expensive, is the short version. $2 an hour, I think, is the starting price, and you can't. I thought it was 12 hours. It may actually be 24. You can't buy them in less than a number of hours blocks. There's like a wipe and turnover process for them between clients, is my best guess and assumption. I don't know, but that's what it looks like from this side, is that's going on.
Yeah.
And then the other part is there's licensure involved with Apple, where OS X does not allow itself to be virtualized by license, and no carve out was supplied to AWS at apparently any price for that. So yeah.
Yeah, because I personally would love a Mac server on AWS. I think that would be great, but I don't want to. If we're paying $90 for a whatever that is, a T3 2X or whatever it was, or an extra large or whatever. If you have the equivalent Mac, you're talking, I don't know, $300 or $400 a month kind of stuff, as opposed to $80 or $90, which is a hell of a lot even more than the Linux. So unfortunately, the premium experience, they bill for it aggressively. Once again,
if you can put a Mac Mini or a Mac Studio in a data center yourself, though, there are
companies that'll do that. They can rent a shelf or something on the data center. I used to do that years ago.
Yeah. Oh, if clients want to rent Macs, they're very super specifically interested in that. I would just send them directly to Mac Stadium, because they are the biggest Mac.
Margaret, can you bring that up real quick just for fun? Mac Stadium. They're not FileMaker. They're just a Mac.
No, they're just a generic. Yeah, they're a Mac hosting company. They have.
Didn't they buy space next to a big data center or something? So it just pipes it across or something?
I don't know, but probably. I have talked to a large client of theirs that is a client of ours. They get, I'm told, special deals with Apple. Different M chips than are available to the public, like beefier models or something. I'm not clear on what the actual differences are, but they're not the retail SKUs.
Really?
So I don't know what's different about them, but there were CEO to CEO talks between our client and them about that, because this client hosts absolutely every one of their clients on really, really, really big Cadillac Macs, hosted at Mac Stadium. So
okay.
Like 10 terabyte SSDs, huge, just the biggest, every number, the maximum, 128 gigs of RAM, all this stuff. So,
wow, that's better break out the checkbook, folks. All right, other questions about licensing about FileMaker?
Yes, we have 2. I'm gonna do the easier one, fast one first. FM Training TV, FM license and training. Can I buy it if I live in Greenland?
We can sell FMR single license
Yeah,
or
yeah,
buy
or
from us.
yeah.
Yeah,
They
we
want to buy
can.
from us. Can you buy
We,
this? You're living room.
yes, you can buy it. You'll pay whatever the exchange rate is through PayPal or whatever the credit card that you use to pay for that through there. The version of FileMaker that's in our version that goes out in Pro is the international version, which all it means is that it can adapt to 7 different languages. So I don't know what your preferred language is, but all the normal low-hanging fruit languages, right?
There is a complicated one, David. If you want, not David. Wow, my brain's dying. I saw David Angel's name and my brain malfunctioned. If you want to take this,
Is it the one that you copied from YouTube?
yeah,
Roberto, about
I
the
feel like that's
container.
addressing me, basically, specifically.
yes.
Why are we doing Windows servers instead of Macs or something?
No,
Yeah.
no, no, no.
I'm a Linux guy and I suffer a lot launching an FMS on Ubuntu. How about container Ubuntu? There's a rate to upload a container on AWS.
Are those related to each other? I'm asking.
I think so. It's from the same person.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we're not using Mac servers because that doesn't exist. We have desktop Macs that we abuse as servers. A lot of my clients do that actually, and it works great, but those aren't servers, not really. We do Windows because that decision was made before I worked here, and then we have continued to invest in Windows, and so we have a lot of Windows investment, basically. If I moved us entirely or primarily to Linux, I would need to I'd need to sit down and build scripts for the Linux servers, not least to set them up automatically and things like that, but also for backups and things. None of that exists currently. And as we have talked about and screamed at length and with great volume, you cannot use snapshots on servers to back up live databases. And so I would need some additional way to, like we do on Windows, zip up and offsite a copy of the database every so often.
We're doing PowerShell in Windows, right? Is that what we do? PowerShell?
We do PowerShell on Windows, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just PowerShell and 7-zip basically. But I would need to address that problem basically. I have a suspicion that everybody is on Linux and just using Amazon snapshots. Hopefully, actually, I hope they are, because you'll get good snapshots of your backup copies of the database, but the live one won't be useful without a volumetric amount of coding on your end to be able to pause, snapshot, unpause, etc., and then handle all of the errors from all of that that may potentially occur, basically, because you don't know if it's going to work every time and stuff like that. And it's a backup system, so it has to.
Okay, so we have one final question, which I will grab, and then we'll be free.
Well, there was a question there. Steve has
there's 2 more. Noberto's other I have not even gotten to the Docker part.
Oh, you haven't even got to that? Okay, got it.
Yes, container Ubuntu. Yes, you can do container Ubuntu. I don't know how you would do that on Amazon specifically. I don't know if they'll let you do that, but the way that you do it on a Mac or something like that is it ends up pulling in a Docker base image for the relevant Ubuntu machine and then booting off of that as an overlay or something. And that will work great. So if you can reconstruct that in Amazon, then yes, you can do that. I, to be honest, personally recommend against containers. This is one of my spicy opinions. I have to tell everyone it's a spicy opinion before I say it, because I don't know that anybody else agrees with me. But there's if you do servers, a specific fact, and that specific fact is don't put databases inside of containers. And so while FileMaker, the software may or may not work correctly in that scenario, it is to be avoided generally. And so I don't encourage people to do it and don't endorse it as a result of that, basically. So, and then the final question. This is a Steve one.
Yeah, there's that one for sure.
Let's see. Do people still purchase, install, and manage FM Pro server? I love that name. It's coming back on their own hardware in their physical offices or network like the old days 20 years ago? Yes, they do. All day, every day. I do obviously way fewer of those these days than I used to. When I was hired in 2018, it was a lot of on-site servers and a few Amazons, and the balance is the opposite now. It's all Amazon and almost no on-site.
Why? Why is it that way? I know the answer. I want you to just why.
Oh, because nobody has on-site IT, and they realize that it is officially and fully their responsibility if it goes down while it's at their office or whatever. People, a lot of our clients would like to avoid having the expense of even an MSP, for example, because you can get contract MSPs for a
Managed service provider. So
yep,
contract IT people, right?
Basically, yeah. You hire them. There's a lot of agreements and stuff that come with it, but essentially they are contract people that can manage your network. Generally, that can be kind of broad all the way into, you're hiring somebody on contract to like manage your FileMaker server and deal with it if it falls over and stuff like that. And the services and everything else vary pretty substantially based on the company, but yeah, just generally speaking, they will manage your computers for you. And that can be great actually, but it's also expensive because you're contracting out what would be either one or multiple full-time staffers. And so it's cheaper, but it's still not free. And so for people that are trying to get the absolute least cost possible, honestly, those are the ones that end up hosting on site, but that's because they can buy like an M1 Mini or something like that, and then sit on it for 5 or 10 years until the hardware fails. And they do that. It's difficult now because honestly, because Apple doesn't support their stuff that long anymore. They've tried to stop giving us 12 years of operating system updates or whatever we had there for a little while.
That's all correct.
I think they would like to stop supporting quite that long. But that said, people will still try it. And probably what that means is they'll update, their Mac and their FileMaker until it won't anymore. And then they'll sit there and then it'll break or die, or they'll have some problem or whatever. And then that'll be time for the new server.
That happens. Like I said, we talked about that earlier.
That's honestly most of what
they install new operating system. Why do you update? I mean, you should keep your FileMaker update. There's a lot of benefits, a lot of neat stuff coming for it. That's great. But that being said, people will only do it if the operating system forces them sometimes. So
yeah, and I'll tell you the real secret is, if you're really trying to be a miser on site, get a used Mac Mini and put Ubuntu on it. Not kidding. Go get an Intel one of the old ones. You can get them probably almost free off Craigslist. They make great. Don't run your whole,
This is assuming that you're a miser and you're technically awesome.
No, our best advice to you: don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Right? If you're a miser, like Jacob could be a miser if he wants to, because he gets in there command line all this stuff. All right. Well, I think Dirk, did you have a question? Do we have any other questions, Margaret?
David brought up the fact that there are competing services to AWS. Are those viable? Are the prices about the same? Do we know?
Viable, yes. Pricing, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Viable, and I don't know. We played that game before, right?
I wrote into an email to somebody this morning. Yeah, correct. But Vultr is bulk low price. That's the point. The problem one of the problems I have, I'll just say this is totally inside baseball for you guys on live stream, but one of the problems I have with clients asking like, hey, we're looking at some other vendor, and so if that vendor is not like a FileMaker industry company, obviously I have opinions on some of them, but like FMP Host or 888 or one of these, like they do FileMaker hosting, whether you like them or not. That's what they do. They'll do that narrowly. Okay.
There's an assumed skill set there, right? About FileMaker.
And then and so outside of that, I can recommend somebody like Amazon all day. And honestly, literally the same way people used to go, nobody's going to get fired for recommending IBM. They are that kind of a recommendation. They have great performance and all that kind of stuff, but they're not the cheapest. They're not. I tell that to anybody who asks. Nope, I'm not giving you the absolute lowest cost recommendation. They're not much more expensive, but they're not the cheapest. And what I get for that, basically, like in conversations with clients, is not having to go through, because there are 7 million different bargain bin bulk VPS providers. VPS stands for virtual private server. That's what we're basically delivering to you on Amazon. The generic name for that, for a virtual server host, is a VPS provider. And so
I did not even know that.
there are thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, I don't know, a billion of those companies around. They buy bulk servers and resell them basically. And there's not that much interesting to it. I technically do it like a little bit on the side in my personal life, not as a big thing, but just as you get a few customers together and they can pay your server fee, so you don't have to pay the server fee, you just have to manage it, to be honest. But there are so many of those companies, and the quality, uptime, do the hard drives crap out, like all those types of varies per hosting company. And I don't want to have the conversation with literally everybody who comes through the front door. Here's 25 different hosting companies that you could pick from, or here's the random one the client discovered last week. Are they okay? I don't know. A lot of them probably are. They're probably fine. And so I can tell you, yes, if it's a good server host, it's as good as Amazon or any other, but that may not be something the client can determine themselves. And so I can just say, go to Amazon. And again, like maybe they're not the cheapest option on the market, but I will always get a good response, and Amazon will always have a server available to, throw one up, or, there's none of this kind of stuff. And you don't have any of the random hardware failure problems and like all that kind of stuff. I've heard so many bad stories from people who, like, it's a personal thing. So they tried to save as much money as possible, and they saved too much money is the short version. And they cost themselves the difference in time. And the time is much more expensive than the dollars are. So.
Wow, that was a tour de force of advice. And there was no charge for this advice today, which also means that your mileage may vary.
Nope, it's $3.99. If you don't like my advice, what was it you used to say, Richard? We will write you a refund check for the full value of your purchase.
The full value of your purchase of your live stream today. Yes.
Yep.
How do I spell zero?
That's why I have spicy opinions.
I'm the same way you are, right?
For you, like tell you this is controversial. This is not what other people say. Whatever. Like I have to say that because for a lot of the stuff I agree with everybody. Some of the stuff less so.
Speaking of spicy opinions.
Oh, is that real? What I just said?
Yeah.
Right? Am I seeing this?
Yes, you are.
Someone's on FileMaker 6. Okay, so I'm not going to.
Reasonable reasons to upgrade to 20? Yes. How many years is that, Richard?
6 would be back to 96, 97, 98.
So we're almost 20 years? No,
you're over 20 years. You're almost 30 years.
We're almost 30 years. So
you're asking me why you would use 30-year-old software.
So the reasonable reasons to upgrade to 20 are almost 30 years of software development in the product.
I don't want to.
I'm roasting the client. Sorry,
I did not post the name, so
yeah. Okay. Is it one of our regulars?
No, I've never seen him.
Okay, so here's the deal. So
they say they have version 18. So they upgraded from 6. The person in question is adding extra information, so they upgraded from 6 to FileMaker 18. So they're now on 18.
Oh.
And now they want to know if they should upgrade to 20.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Stay up to date.
And if you're gonna wait until what we're calling 21 comes out, which we don't know when it is, but soon, eventually, I don't know, sometime this year, probably, we hope.
Probably June, what they're acting.
Yeah, at that point, I would basically just answer yes, you should do it, and then also maybe consider a recover also on that file, just for healthy file reasons.
David Angel says, can FileMaker 6 can update to the latest version you need to redevelop? If you have a multi-file solution, like 20 files, you can try to find someone who can help you with that. But once again, you're going to need to get them out of the old folks' home or give them some depend undergarments or a walker or something.
You used to say that you would do stuff for like that if they paid you like $500 an hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a general idea, people want me to come work for them for free or something. And I'm like, I have to discourage that behavior. But does it still function? Mike asked the question. If you have a really old computer and an old operating system, sure, FileMaker 6 would still work, right?
Mm-hmm.
The problem, historically, what happens is people buy the computer, even if they don't update the operating system, the computer dies. I have people who go on eBay looking for a Quadra, a Mac Quadra, if you guys don't even know what that is, okay? Looking for, that's pre-Intel, that's back before, that was before Steve Jobs. He just got fired the first time. That's how old that is. Yes.
I didn't know what that is. I had to go look it up.
I actually have a couple of these still.
I've brought people up from 10 recently. That I know works. I would be more trepidatious.
But it doesn't work on a
6.
current computer. Is the answer,
Yeah.
David? If you have this wherever this picture is on my thing, then you're fine. But how long is that computer? These computers are literally collector's items. I was looking for a variation of the Quadra that I couldn't find one on eBay. I was trying to get one to add to my collection. Anyway.
Oh, if you want to buy old computer hardware, I have a friend for you.
Okay.
Sorry, that's not,
anyway. So the answer is that from FileMaker 7, if you're on 7 and it works, you can upgrade your way all the way up to 21, 24, 23. What we have right now, we have 20, 23 right now. It's the current version we have. It is upgradable. You can do that.
Mm-hmm.
It will kind of work. Okay. If you're on FileMaker 6, anything before 7, there's potentially a lot of work involved. Margaret, to give you an idea, you know how you write a script and you tell it to commit?
Yeah.
In the old FileMaker, the commits were implied automatically after every script step. So if you have 12 set field commands, your script to go set field, and it would do the commit to server, set field, commit to server. So it would super slow on the network.
Yeah, and also your screen would flash about
it. But then it would, your screen would flash. You have an epileptic seizure. Okay. But if you drag it over to 7 doesn't do specific commits unless you close the layout or close the file or do something like that. So one of the things, there were 280 issues that had to be resolved, one of which was going back in and dropping commits in to force the to save to the server.
That's
that's why.
Thing.
Yes. Welcome to the life of Richard.
Forever.
When I was your age, or about closer to Jacob's age, a little bit older,
awful.
The documentation to go from FileMaker 6 to 7 was 270 pages, single spaced.
Look, I know that FMP7 was a complete version change, like the file ending change. It went to FMP7 because I remember when it changed.
It was a re-engineered product. That was where the relational diagram was created. And a couple of years after that is when someone came, hey, we should do this anchor buoy thing. And then the same people who invented anchor buoy decided they got bored by it, wanted to do something else, because I have people who like to move the furniture, right? And so they changed that, but that's where anchor buoy came from, because of 7, and then people were like just drawing everywhere the relationship graph.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's 2:15 on a Friday, and I would have a beer, but I got to go fly. So I'm going to go fly and put out fires. Jacob, you good? Everything okay? Everyone answer questions? Yes.
Yeah, we're doing good.
I think we're
doing
good. Yeah.
Have a good weekend, everyone. Enjoy your adult beverages.
Have a good one. Y'all have a good day.
No.